This situation just got crazier. We have a huge Islanders injury update as Mat Barzal has come out and given some concerning comments about his injury from last season and how recovered he is going into this season and even the seasons beyond this year. We're going to discuss it all on this episode of Islanders Digest, but really quickly, before we dive in, I do want to pour some cold water on the concern that I've seen from so many Islander fans. No, it is not ideal that Mat Barzal got injured to end the year. You never want to see a player block a slap shot with their kneecap. That being said, I personally am not concerned with the health of Barzal moving forward. Will I be concerned if he gets injured again? Yes. Will I be concerned if he does not look good in preseason? Absolutely. None of that stuff has happened until he gives me a reason to be concerned with his long-term future as a New York Islander on whether or not he can stay healthy. I think Barzal is going to be the same Barzal we known and love from the past. I think there's a little too much being read into this situation. I think part of it is just that it's a concerning sounding injury. And in addition, I think he was a bit too honest when it came to this quote. But I am not worried about what Mat Barzal we are going to get back this season. I'm going to explain why after talking about the quote in this episode. In addition, I'm going to pour some cold water on another thing that people are really angry about on Islanders Twitter that I don't think is a big deal, but I'd love to know your thoughts on it in the end of the video. Really quickly, before we get into this, we are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. In fact, we are only 7 away from 1,700. So if you're an Islander fan, you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate your support as we continue to make Islanders content every single day. Now let's talk about Mat Barzal. And this injury update was not good. This quote by Mat Barzal was not good. Probably not ideal for a professional athlete to be this honest, especially in the NHL where injuries are kept super secretive. Other sports, it's a lot more open when it comes to what a player's injury is. In hockey, it's really secretive. I think that's kind of why there's such a big deal around this quote. He said he will be 100% ready if the Islanders had a game tomorrow. He actually said this a lot earlier in the summer. While he did take time off skating just to fully allow his body more time to heal, he made it really clear that pretty early into the summer he was feeling 100% and was cleared for all hockey activity, which is exactly what you want to hear. In terms of players being injured, Mat Barzal is in a perfect spot when we consider other injuries that we've heard about in the NHL, and the big part of this too is just what players say and don't say about their injuries. Around the league, there seems to be so much concern about what Barzal is going to look like skating this season. Meanwhile, there's no concern over other players such as Matthew, who I put in the thumbnail because I think it's a perfect example of a player that nobody is concerned about being injured, even though he literally had his abductor muscle pulled off the bone. If there's any player you should be concerned, he's not going to be able to play for the majority of the season, yet everyone's wondering what Barzal is going to look like when he came back, when he had a full offseason to recover. I get it. You never want to see a player break their kneecap, but I think part of why Barzal's quote is so real and honest here is just because he understands this injury well. It's something he's dealt with before because if you don't remember, Mat Barzal was dealing with a knee injury when the Islanders drafted him. The only reason Mat Barzal is a New York Islander and did not go way earlier in the draft is he had a fractured kneecap in his draft year that caused him to fall down to the Islanders. I think part of this is him reflecting that maybe that knee has never felt quite the same. Because if we go into this quote, it says, injuries like this, you potentially never feel back at 100%. But mentally, I'm at a point now where it doesn't really matter. If I'm feeling great, if maybe one day I'm a little sore or whatever, it is what it is. I have 6 more years left on a contract right now, and I'm fully committed to doing everything I can to be the best player I can be. What's concerning a lot of people is he says, I potentially may never feel back at 100%. And at first hearing this quote, I was really concerned. But then I thought about it. One, again, this is an injury that he's experienced a similar injury to. Perhaps that knee, because it is a different knee, has ached him here and there over the years where we've seen him be one of the best skaters in the NHL despite fracturing his kneecap before he was drafted by the New York Islanders. But another thing to keep in mind here is I don't think any player ever truly feels 100% after they've had surgery. Now, I'm very fortunate to never have experienced an injury during my playing career. Forget about needing surgery. I've been relatively healthy, minus a concussion or two. But my point here is with Barzal, I think he's just reflecting more honestly what it's like to have surgery where you might be recovered and be able to play at the level you were before, but it's never going to quite feel the same. And I'm going to be honest, like looking at this quote, I appreciate this honesty a lot more than we hear Jack Hughes saying, oh, his shoulder feels brand new, like it's never been injured. I don't believe that. I don't believe that these players who have shoulder surgery after shoulder surgery or all these core surgeries, McDavid has had, I think, 2 core surgeries now. I don't believe that that ever goes away completely and they don't feel it all. They're going to say they feel 100% because they don't want to talk about being injured. But realistically, that's just not the case of things. I'm not necessarily concerned about Barzal saying that his knee might feel swollen from time to time. That makes sense. He had a surgery on his kneecap. But I also want to stop this Islanders discussion. I see it all over Islanders Twitter where people are talking about Mat Barzal as if he's not going to be able to skate the same way he has before. Look, Mat Barzal is one of the best skaters in the entire league, and a huge reason for that is his elite edge work. That's not going to go away because of this injury. He's still going to be the fastest player on the Islanders next season. I think this is partially getting over analyzed just because we haven't seen Barzal on the ice since this injury. And the one time that he was on the ice, I've seen people over analyzing him doing those slow shots where he was stick handling, saying he looks really lethargic. He's skating slow for the pictures. I don't know exactly how Barzal is feeling. Perhaps it irritates him here and there on a back-to-back game now when he bends down. I don't know this, so you're never going to know what it's like to be inside the head of a player. But until we see a game where Mat Barzal looks incredibly slow, I have no reason to believe this knee injury is going to cause any long-term concern, at least for the Islanders, for the next 6 seasons when Mat Barzal is on the team. Now, where the question does lie is he going to be able to stay healthy? Because this has been a concern for the past few seasons, and if Mat Barzal is going to be successful on the Islanders, it's going to have to get better. In the past 3 years, he's had 3 major injuries. Notably, only one of them was to this knee. He's had 3 different injuries, which I think eases my concern a bit about him being injury prone. But at this point, it's time for him to prove that he's not injury prone, because another injury, I don't think I could anymore defend that he is not this player who is injury prone. In fact, a lot of people are talking about what percentage of Barzal we're going to get back, as if, oh, is he limited to being this 50-point player now, this, that. I see a lot of this talk on Islanders Twitter. I'm honestly expecting him to go back to 65-ish point form, and really how much more he scores beyond that is not even about him as a player. It's more a question on who is going to be on his line and how well are they going to have chemistry. Because I do think Mat Barzal is still a player who can put up a point per game. I don't think this injury changes that until I see obvious proof that this is an issue. I'm not going to think it changes that. In fact, this quote by Mat Barzal really reminds me of a quote from a few years ago from Aaron Judge when he ran into the wall and injured his toe. And he said after getting toe surgery, it's never going to feel 100% like what it used to. And then he proceeded to go ahead and win an MVP award, hitting, 57 home runs? Again, I think Mat Barzal is still capable of playing the way he did before. Perhaps was being a little too honest there with that quote, letting his media training slip just a bit. But I'm not concerned about Mat Barzal. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Another thing that Islander fans have been getting frustrated about, and I refuse to commit a full video to this, but I want to discuss it, is they released new jersey numbers for players, including new players, and D'Angelo decided to switch his number to 77, which I actually think is interesting. That kind of shows me that Lou Lamoriello wanted him to have a low number, so I'm glad, looking at these numbers, that high numbers are finally allowed back on the Islanders. I thought that low number rule was a really stupid rule by Lou Lamoriello, making players pick lower numbers. But the one that has a lot of people upset, I'm going to go through the other ones first. Heineman, 51. Shabanov is wearing 41. Really excited to see him play this season. Richie, 64. And then Druin will be wearing Brock Nelson's 29. A lot of Islander fans have been upset that Druin's wearing this number after Brock Nelson left? Look, Brock Nelson got traded away. He decided to stay with the Colorado Avalanche. I don't blame him at all. I cannot wait for Islander fans to root for him when he first returns to UBS Arena. However, he's no longer on the team. He's not some Hall of Fame legend player. He's one of my favorite players my entire time as being an Islander fan, but he's not some super legendary player. His number is not going to get retired. There's no reason why Druin can't wear number 29 if he wants that number. This is not a reason to hate on Druin. This is not a reason to be angry at the Islanders for making the number available. Brock Nelson is not on the team. It's no longer his number. And this also goes, I've seen people saying that people shouldn't wear 12 for Josh Bailey or 17 for Matt Martin. I completely disagree. They're no longer on the team while they were a huge part of the previous core of the Islanders. None of them are Hall of Famers or going to get retired by the organization. There's nothing wrong with wearing this number, in my opinion, for Druin. I think this is just people looking for something to get excited about. But let me know in the comments what you think about that. Do you think the Islanders should have had this number take a year or so off before Druin wore it? I've seen a couple comments saying that. Personally, I think there's nothing wrong with Druin wearing this number. And again, I don't think there is any concern when it comes to Mat Barzal's knee until we see something to be concerned about. If in the first 20 games of the season, if all of a sudden his speed boosts, like, you know, they track the speed boosts of players, like their fastest speed during games, if all of a sudden that's cut in half, then we'll have something to talk about. But until that happens, I don't have any concern about Mat Barzal. And again, remember, this surgery happened under 6 months ago. So the fact that he's already feeling good enough to suit up months ago is an encouraging sign. But I'd love to know your thoughts on it in the comments below. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders.